I have to start by confessing a bit of confusion over today's hearing, particularly the title, which links together Texas's abortion ban and the role of the shadow docket. What mystifies me about this is that the emergency docket, the motions docket that we're talking about, the so-called shadow docket, I thought the complaint about the shadow docket, and by the way, I clerked at the U.S. Supreme Court. I remember well the motions docket and how it works and the emergency aspect to it. I thought the complaint and concern about that were the summary reversals and the orders that the court supposedly issues when they intervene in cases, when they grant emergency injunctions without the benefit of full briefing, opinions, etc. In the Texas case, the court simply refused to act. They didn't intervene. The court didn't use a summary reversal. They didn't insert themselves at all. They just let the normal course of the law proceed. So it's a strange complaint about the shadow docket that the court didn't do, in this case, what liberals wanted it to do, didn't reach out to insert itself and issue an emergency order in the way that the left wanted. Which brings me to, I think, what this hearing's really about. This hearing's not really about that case at all. This hearing's really about the Dobbs case, Mississippi case. Senator Hirono did us the favor of reading from statements made by the Mississippi Attorney General, who is, by the way, a woman, regarding that state's position in the Dobbs case. This is plainly an attempt to intimidate the United States Supreme Court ahead of this case, oral arguments to be heard, I think, on the 1st of December. And unfortunately, there's a pattern of not only this committee, but of Democrats in this body doing so. Just last year, Chuck Schumer went to the steps of the Supreme Court and directly threatened Justices Gorsuch and Kavanaugh by name. He called their names out and said, "You won't know what's hit you if you don't change direction. Basically, if you don't rule the way that we want you to rule." Of course, then he later came out in favor of court packing. Members of this committee, Senator Whitehouse, filed a brief with the court in which he explicitly threatened the court with restructuring, I believe was the term of choice, unless the court ruled the way he wanted them to rule. That's what this hearing is about. This hearing is about threatening an institution of our government to rule the way the extreme left of the Democrat Party wants it to rule. And I say extreme left advisedly, deliberately. Let's talk for a second about the bill that the House of Representatives, the United States House of Representatives, last Friday, this remarkable piece of legislation would mandate partial birth abortion across our country, all 50 states. Mandated. Partial birth abortion. What am I talking about? Let's just be explicit. This is from the Supreme Court of the United States, their opinion in the Gonzalez case, 2007, Gonzalez versus Carhart. And I quote, "Dr. Haskell went in with the forceps and grabbed the baby's legs and pulled them down into the birth canal. Then he delivered the baby's body and the arms, everything but the head. Then the doctor stuck the scissors into the back of his head, and the baby's arms jerked out. The doctor opened up the scissors, stuck a high-powered suction tube into the opening, and sucked the baby's brains out." End quote. That is what the House of Representatives just voted to codify as the law of the land. That procedure. A procedure that is favored by almost no Americans. A procedure that bipartisan majorities banned in 2003 in this body. And now the House Democrats, and apparently all the Democrats in the Senate, want to bring it back and mandate it nationwide, reflecting the moral sensibility of the brutalist regime in North Korea. This is the ethics of North Korea on display. Killing a child as she is already out of the womb, for heaven's sake. She's already mostly delivered, sticking scissors into the back of her head and sucking her brains out. That is a quote from the U.S. Supreme Court. That is what is on offer. That is the platform of today's Democrat Party in this body. It is absolutely extraordinary. That's what today's hearing is about. They want to intimidate the Supreme Court of the United States to rule the way they want them to rule. They want to enact the most radical, pro-death legislation and agenda in our country's history, the most radical assault on fetal life, on unborn life, in the case of partial birth abortion, on life that is already, a baby that's already delivered. They want that to be the law of the land. They're voting for it. I look forward to voting on this in the United States Senate. We ought to put every senator on record in this body. We ought to vote on this bill. Let's vote. We ought to mark it up in this committee. Let's do it. I want to know. The American people deserve to know which senators support the delivery and killing of children out of the womb. Let's find out. Let's find out. I urge this committee to bring this legislation for markup. I urge us to vote on it, and then we should vote on the floor. The American people should see what it is that today's Democrat Party is proposing. I think they would be absolutely revolted and appalled. But it's time, as they say, to call the question.